Okay, now on We Love Movies, we're going to take a look at whatever happened to some of the big action movie stars that were A-list at one stage, and they were sort of littering an awful lot of cineplexes with their over-the-top action fests. And we'll get into the type of action stars now in a second, because really they're just taking up space on Xtra-vision's shelves. But joining me in studio to look back at some of the lost action stars is Ross McDonagh from rossvross.com. Ross, first off though, let's get the plug in for the website. Explain what the site is all about.
Hi, very kind. Good evening, Gordon. Yes, the website, of course, is myself and my reporter friend Ross McGuinness. And we basically just take two films that are connected and we battle out over which is better than the other.
Okay, Ross, Lost Action Heroes. I absolutely adore my action movies, even the cheesy ones that sometimes you go, I can't believe I have a soft spot in my heart for these movies. But there was a stage that the guys that we're going to talk about, they were huge stars. Just sort of mention some of the names that are now pretty much taking up bargain bin basements in certain DVD stores.
Oh, indeed. Anyone who's aged between the age of 12 and 29 at any stage during the 90s would have followed these guys. The likes of Dolph Lundgren, Steven Seagal, Jean-Claude Van Damme, even the great Chuck Norris. I mean, there's no top on the Chucks there. They thrived in this environment back in the 90s, and I think it's kind of sad that it's kind of diminished a little bit, because it was a really great genre. And
at the moment, if you kind of think of the current crop of movies that are out there, I can't really put my finger on one big action star. I know you could say maybe Jason Statham to a certain degree off the back of the Crank and the Transporter films, but he's still, he wouldn't be like Stallone big or like Arnold Schwarzenegger. He hasn't kind of reached that particular status. Whereas years ago, like Seagal was making big movies. Now, his films are like, they're not even up the top shelf of Xtra-vision. They're buried at the very bottom, and he's always holding bloody guns.
Yeah,
because he's got so fat.
It's an embarrassing thing to be even caught holding a Steven Seagal video, I think. Apart the Holy Trinity, I suppose, were probably Arnie, Stallone, and you could even probably throw Bruce Willis in there as well. As you say, there's nobody compares today. Statham probably the closest. You've got the likes of The Rock and maybe Vin Diesel, but they just don't rank up to the big guys.
That's true. And if you kind of again, if you look at the people like Seagal and Van Damme, they started in sort of direct to DVD/video at the time movies, and they kind of made the leap up onto the sort of the A-list status. I suppose for Seagal it was like Under Siege, and then for the likes of Jean-Claude, he made Hard Target with John Woo, and Time Cop, and Nowhere to Run, I think, was another film he had. But then went straight back down. And someone who has joined them back on DVD is Wesley Snipes.
Yeah.
Now, granted, that man is doing time at the moment, but there's another guy who had a great run, A-list wise. Demolition Man, of course, the Blade movies. And he's churning out absolute. Where did it all go wrong, do you reckon, Ross?
Well, I have a theory. The Trinity I mentioned, Stallone, Arnie and Bruce Willis, they were huge action stars. But I don't think they ever took themselves serious as to the degree of some of the other lads.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you've the likes of Arnie, who did, like Twins, and Sly did Stop or My Mom Will Shoot. Bruce Willis was in Friends, taking the piss out of himself. But the other lads like Wesley Snipes, Dolph Lundgren, Jean-Claude Van Damme, like, they were always deadly serious.
Mm-hmm.
They were always like, I'm not messing here. We're serious action stars, and they weren't willing to pull the piss a little bit. And I think he needs to be able to do that. I mean, you see the modern guys. I know they haven't lived up to it yet, but even The Rock, he's done like the Game Plan and Race to Witch Mountain, the kids films. Vin Diesel's done The Pacifier and stuff like that. They know now, they know they have to be able to do the softer side as well to live up to it.
That's
I think
true.
The old lads took themselves too serious, and it was their undoing.
Do you think there's any road back for some of the guys that we mentioned? People like Seagal. Do you think he now realises, this is where I'm at now. I'm making these movies. It's still a living, and it still allows me to perform with my Hopeless Blues band.
Well, yeah. I hope you're not going to play any music for us from Stephen's band later, Gordon. I didn't agree to that in the contract. I think that the best way back in is probably one you can plan, and it's one that Chuck Norris got in through. And if there's anything more powerful than Chuck Norris Roundhouse, it's an internet meme. Right. And of course the Chuck Norris facts, which were, they just came up last year, which were absolutely brilliant. And Chuck Norris was thrown straight back into the limelight. Now he's probably back up there, one of the big guys. He's probably got more Google hits than a lot of them.
Yeah, and I loved his little cameo in Dodgeball as well.
Exactly. People want to see him now, but just because he's caught onto this internet meme. And
it's like, you look at Hoff, the David Hasselhoff, and like, he's such a figure of ridicule. Whereas you look at Chuck Norris, even though people are taking the mick to a certain degree, but there's still an awful lot of affection for him.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is the nice thing.
And plus, you don't mess with him. I mean, Chuck Norris invented the cesarean section when he roundhouse kicked his way out of his mother's womb. You know that kind of.
There you go, folks. Another interesting fact there from Ross. You get it all here on We Love Movies. It has to be said. Do you know, we're just going to take a little clip here now. This is actually Lee Evans, the British comedian. This is when he was asked who is his favourite between Steven Seagal and Jean-Claude Van Damme, and here's his answer.
Steven Seagal or Jean-Claude Van Damme?
Van Damme. I like him. He's very muscly.
Now, we mentioned, Ross, about, possible sort of return to the A-list. I know Seagal, it's been rumoured to a degree that he may be in Robert Rodriguez's Machete film, which is a kind of an extension of what he did with the Grindhouse movie with Quentin Tarantino. But The Expendables, this is Stallone's next big writing-directing gig, and this looks like a homecoming for hard men.
The whole lot of them. So I'm really, really excited about this. I mean, the cast list looks like a roll call of all the great action heroes. It's got Sly Stallone's involved, Statham, Jet Li, Dolph Lundgren himself, Stone Cold Steve Austin, Mickey Rourke. Brilliant. I think Bruce Willis and Arnie are even rumoured to be involved, and I would absolutely love if the genre was reignited by this. I'm quite excited about the project.
But the one name you've left out there is Jean-Claude Van Damme. How come he's not involved in this?
I don't understand. I mean, you'd think it was his ticket straight back in. I mean, all his old buddies are getting involved, and I think it heralds back to my earlier point. Probably takes himself too serious.
Do you think it's he's like that much of an ego tripper that he kind of feels, well, if I was to take part in this, I'm not going to be one of the main guys. I'll probably have to play obviously second fiddle, fourth fiddle, as it were, to Stallone and Statham and what have you.
You've probably hit it right on the head there, Gordon. I think I don't think he would be willing to play a bit down the line to the lads when in reality he should be.
Ross McDonagh, thank you very much. rossvross.com. Check out the website. It's an absolute cracker. We're going to leave you now with the wise words of Steven Seagal. Here he is now publicly apologising for hurting people, and I reckon the people in question are those that have had the misfortune of sitting down of a Saturday night and watching one of his horrendous films. Here is Steven Seagal.
I am sorry for any pain or suffering or hurt or negativity I've caused any sentient being.